A sting launched by Greenpeace activists uncovered two prominent climate change skeptics. They're up for hire. Well, Greenpeace, they posed as this Indonesian energy consultant company, and they approached the first expert, Frank Clementi, a retired sociologist. He was with Penn State. Now, they wanted him to commission a report countering damage studies on Indonesian coal deaths. And they also wanted him to promote the benefits of coal. Now, they found that for the right price, fossil fuel energy could be paid to inject views about climate change. They're wanting to confuse the international debate for the public. Jose, one of these experts, I also want to point out, he's a Princeton professor, William Happer. He testified before Ted Cruz's Science Committee this week, no surprise over climate change. And Guardian released this article, The Guardian did, and these Greenpeace activists, I mean, obviously they went undercover. They have all of these emails, a series of emails that say that, academics can be bought. That's the bottom line.
It's very sad to see that these academics are willing to align themselves with private companies that need scientific data twisted in a way that supports the idea that this planet can support more consumption of coal and therefore emission of CO2. Now, this is not the only environmental fiasco that we see in the context of the COP21 talks that are happening right now in Paris. We also are talking about the fact that 20% of the budget of this conference was paid by corporate sponsors, which businesses, which core businesses are in complete opposition of what's trying to be accomplished in the conferences. We're talking about energy sector companies that definitely are poised to lose a lot of business if we commit to the agreement that they're trying to commit. They're trying to commit to decarbonize the economy by 2050, meaning, yes, some of this has a point. The fact that some countries, developed countries, are using the climate debate incident to manipulate the way the global development goes. Because now we are going to prevent other countries of developing by the use of coal like the industrialized countries already did. So there's an element of it, there's some global implications to the debate, but the fact that there's academics willing to lie for hire and going with Ted Cruz,
allegedly, because depending on how they see the information, they don't consider it a lie. So if they in theory, if they believe it to be true, then it technically isn't a lie. But you're absolutely right. So it's easy for big oil, big gas to pay, or even coal companies to pay academics to write this research that sheds doubt on climate science, and not only that, promotes the commercial interest of companies. That's the critical message underlying. You pointed that out beautifully, that the sponsorship of the Paris talks, if we just look at the sponsor list.
It's very sad. And not only that, we did a story not too long ago about ExxonMobil already saying in a private visit to the Washington Post, saying what is going to happen by 2050 is we're going to raise the temperature of this planet by 5 Celsius degrees, and it's catastrophic. And then they went for 20 years. That happened back in the 70s when they learned that information. They obscured all type of research for many decades. The Koch brothers came forward. They beat them in that game. And now we see that the influence and the lobbying of big oil around the world is very, very dangerous. Not only big oil, in fossil fuels in general, because this is more pertaining to coal. But at the same time, it's hard to agree as a global community to some measures to alleviate the global warming when we see companies so invested in sharing lies or subjective readings of the science facts.
Well, an element of this story, the Greenpeace activist sting, if you will, that was particularly troubling to me. So in the email to the alleged, company posing as the coal company wanting their paper written that would promote the CO2 benefits, Happer allegedly says that the Peabody Energy will pay thousands of dollars for him to testify at a state hearing, and the funds will be paid to a climate skeptic think tank through that think tank. So that they're able to sort of maneuver and use money and funding through think tanks, which are supposed to, in theory, be objective, just objective information about, a certain expertise, if you will. And this is what he had to say regarding his activities. He says, "My activities to push back against climate extremism are a labor of love to defend the cherished ideals of science that have been so corrupted by the climate change cult." So those are really strong words.
Yeah, biggest statement. The only thing that I see in those words that resonate with me is this idea that, again, and I'm going to reiterate, the control of the industrialized countries that they're trying to pose a limit on how other countries develop themselves, and trying to compensate them with that, with a green fund, and paying money to countries that won't have the chance to develop as quickly because they won't be using fossil fuels like the industrialized countries. So in those terms, the climate code might be he might be referring to the fact that there's political implications of the bigger countries trying to squash the growth of India, of other development countries, that if they grow, they could be a threat to the economies of the top countries.
Right. Well, the general axiom, it changes with something called disclosure, and that's what we have here for you. And it belongs in the public domain. The ultimate source of funding revealed, who's paying them and why, at the heart of this.